Yeah, and so the shark attack was on the same day that the whale was there. Okay. And I'm here.
When and how did your love of records start?
Man, started. I mean, definitely in my teens. I worked in record stores growing up. Was always around a lot of records through my family, and I was kind of. At my age, a lot of things were turned to CDs, and of course tapes had already happened, but I still loved the large format records, the art, the presentations. So.
And did you ever fall out of love with records?
Yeah, I didn't. I remember in college, I had a ton of CDs I brought to college, and at the time, there was a really good CD store. I went to UC Santa Barbara, and it was just so cheap and easy to trade CDs and to get a ton of sounds. And at the time, I wasn't as concerned with the medium as just the music.
Yeah.
And so it didn't have importance to me.
Yeah. How many records do you own?
Less than I did a month ago.
Yeah.
I've been purging a little bit, but probably between 5,000 and 6,000.
Holy shit.
Okay. Way too many.
I've
realized like there was a period of a long time where it was just really until about the last 2 or 3 years where I was accumulating records and not really pulling stuff out to sell, and I realized that with the amount of records I have, I could never listen to all of them, and so I started to slowly, as I play things, I'm kind of critically listening, and if I don't think I'm going to get to it again within a year, I'll sell it.
How do you organize your records?
Not very well. I have jazz in one room, and that's kind of the room that houses the least amount of records, probably about 1,500, but they're to me the most special in my collection. And then in my garage, I have a couple of large shelving units, and I have everything else there, and mostly just by genre. Within the genres, I'll try to get into with my reggae collection, I'll go by labels a little bit. So like my Trojan records, my Studio One records, my Wackies records. But with my rock section, it's just kind of all over the place.
There's alphabetical?
No.
It's not even alphabetical?
No, but there will be tangents, like all my Neil Young records. And those will be next to my Buffalo Springfield records.
Right.
And, and then I'll get into my Bob Dylan records, and also be next to my records by the band.
Okay.
And by, offshoots of them. So it's more kind of tangential, linking artists and genres.
Yeah, like a genealogical tree.
A little bit, yeah. And I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense to anyone probably but me. But I can find most of my records pretty quickly.
The next logical question, or a next logical question, what is your most prized record?
Yeah, there's no question about it.
However you want to define it.
No, that's okay. My most prized record is the record by Damon, who was a psych rock artist from Los Angeles. I think the name of the album is Song of a Gypsy, and it's just a beautiful, early 70s, late 60s kind of psychedelic snapshot of the Los Angeles, the hills and the scene that was going on there. It's just a really small private press record, and I found it at a flea market for 50 cents maybe 10 years ago.
Okay.
And I actually didn't know what it was. I just picked it up. It's a beautiful leather cover with just beautiful hand-drawn inserts, and it's signed as well. It was done in very small numbers. And I took it home and immediately looked up what it was worth and kind of shocked me a little bit. And then I fell in love with the record. I just loved the music. But about a year later, there was a time where I needed some money, and the record's worth a ton of money, well over a couple $1,000s. And I found a buyer and sold it to him for a large sum of money. I think it was about $3,000, and a guy in Los Angeles. And he got the record and enjoyed it for a little bit. Then about a month later, called back and said, "Hey, unfortunately, the record has a lock roof." And neither one of us kind of realized it at first. And so I said, "Okay, obviously I'll give you the money back. I'm not trying to stick anyone with the record." So I gave him the money back, got the record back about another year later because I didn't want him to ship it because it was so expensive. So we met in person. I got the record back. And when I got it back, I just figured, okay, this thing's meant to be with me. You know, it's a special record for many reasons, but also the journey it took to get to me, finding it at the flea market, and then selling it and then getting it back. It's just like, it's a good story. It's a good record. Great reissue. Now Again Records did a reissue of it. It's a great record. The amount of records that are just still out there to be found is astounding.
Yeah, see, that's one of the things I was wondering, like,
Yeah.
is that, to what extent is that still true? Has that changed over
Still very true.
the years?
Yeah. I mean, the term like digging, the reason there's so many diggers is because there's still success to be had.
Yeah.
You know, it's more competitive than it's ever been for guys digging records. You go to the flea market, the local flea market, and there'll be 15, 20 guys looking for the same thing on a Sunday morning.
Any messages to young collectors?
Yeah, I think what I've realized is you don't need to be in a hurry. There's so many records out there. You know, I think people start collecting per se, and they think they gotta complete all the Blue Note records, complete this, and I think you just go at your own speed. If you like a record, sit with it for a while. What I've learned from owning a shop is that records are always coming and going. There's a scarcity, but there's also an endless well. So you don't need to make it a financial burden. Just, you know, ease into it slowly and follow whatever weird tangent you want. And then of course, I think the bargain bin is a great resource for somebody starting. You know, for our bargain bin's $1. Many other stores have bargain bins that will be similar. You know, there's all kinds of records that might not be valuable that are fun. And if you want to just build up a lot of variety, you know, spend $10 in the bargain bin in any shop, you'll be happy.
I like what you said about there's a scarcity, but there's also an endless well.
It's endless, yeah.
And it's, you know, we were just talking about surfing before we started filming.
Yeah.
Kind of like waves, right?
A little bit. Well, and it's like, you know, if you look behind me here, like, these are rare records for the most part, right? But, you know, this Alice Coltrane record, while valuable and foreseeably somewhat rare, I've had that record 6 or 7 times in 3 years.
Yeah.
So how rare is it? You know, so it's like if that's a record that you want and you have the financial means at the time, then always pick something up like that. But if you feel like if you don't buy it today, you're going to miss out on it, generally that's not the case. You'll see things again.
Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, like, I've seen a lot of Alice Coltrane's come in and out of the store.
Yeah.
Over the years.
And it's shocking. It's shocking. And it's happened with, you know, a number of records. These Pharoah Sanders records, again, I mean, they were on Impulse, a major label, but I mean, I get these over and over again in every collection. And they're great records, but you know, you can take your time in collecting a little bit.
Tell us about the store, maybe. You've been here since 2017, is that right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so 2017, the store's really changed forms along the way. It looks a lot different now than when I opened up, but it kind of has that same ethos. I want the space to be real open and inviting to people of all different interests and likes, because I have very eclectic interests and likes. And so, yeah, 2017, we now have 2 other locations, one on Clementon 23rd and one in Ghirardelli Square. They're all smaller stores, so really, you know, the 3 stores put together would still be about 1/8 of Amoeba. But they're all a little different.
Do you have any favorite other stores, local record stores?
Yeah, Groove Merchant's the first one. I think Chris, who's run it forever, owned it for almost 25 years, I believe, and it's been open longer than that. I think he's the man. He's such a wealth of music knowledge, as are his employees, and so that's the kind of place like where I'll go, and I have no idea what I'm gonna get. I'll look through the bins, I'll listen to some records, and I'll ask for a recommendation. I always leave with something good. You know, his store, if anybody likes my store, I always say, well, it's just a cheap copy of his. You know,
That's probably the most famous store in the city.
for good reason.
For sure.
Yeah. It's an amazing store, and it's, you know, I like musical discovery. You know, you can go on Amazon and get a Taylor Swift record, or get a, you know, anything. But like, I like to go into a store where you don't know what you're gonna get, and you can kind of, whether you pick it out yourself or you ask the proprietor for something.
And it's dusty and it's real.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
And it's shouted out in a Beastie Boys song.
It's for good reason.
So tell us about your new label. What
what
prompted it, and you know.
So the label is obviously Tonal Records, and I do it in conjunction with my friends in Half Moon Bay who run a label called Nudie Records, and they're super important on the production side and the art side. And I got into it because my employee Jack, who I know you guys know, he's a multi-instrumentalist, really great musician, and he played me demos of this record that he made at by himself at a studio, and didn't really offer it to me, but asked me what I thought, and I was blown away by it. And then he said to me he had shopped it to a couple labels and he didn't get a lot of interest, and so I just kind of, the wheels were turned. I was like, well, I can do this. How hard is it, you know? And so that was how it started. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, man.
It's a pleasure.
Oh man, this is just like a DJ.
No, I have to say
That's
though,
exactly what DJs do.
I can't do this.